Hello. My name's Sam and welcome to my channel, So Let's Sparkle with Sam. And today I am armed with my trusty Star Wars notebook because I am going to bring you today's Sewing Bee Synopsis. So this is all about episode 1 of season 10. And if you haven't watched yet, then off you go. I'll see you later. So Sewing Bee are having a bit of an anniversary with their season 10. So 10 years of Sewing Bee. So in the first ever episode of Sewing Bee, we had the kind of Claudia Winkleman was the host, Tilly from Tilly and the Buttons was a contestant, Lauren from Guthrie and Garney was a contestant. There was a lovely the Stuart Hillard, the lovely guy from Sewing Street was on there. Yeah. Kind of fairly famous faces now, but at the time they were just sewing. And now, 10 years later, we've got our newbies. So I'll introduce the newbies. So we have our regular hosts, the lovely Patrick Grant and the lovely Esme Young, and we have a fantastic new host. His name is Kyle Smith Bino, and he is famous for Ghosts, the series Ghosts. So if you don't know who he is, go and check out Ghosts on iPlayer, just like Esme had to, because she had no idea who he was either. I actually know him personally from watching The Taskmaster. He was a contestant on The Taskmaster, which I really love, and I found him hilarious on that. So I've warmed to him really quickly. So I'm really glad that he's the host this year. And I have asked my lovely friend who makes the little Peggy dolls for me to make me a Kyle to add to my collection. So he will go with my other hosts and judges of Peg dolls. Yeah, just for me to have the collection really. So yeah, so those are the judges and the hosts. But what we want to find out about are the lovely bees. So we have Ailsa. Ailsa grew up in the Scottish Highlands and now lives in Glasgow. She loves swimming in Loch Lomond and she describes her sewing style as contemporary, sustainable, modern and experimental. Alex, she lives in Derbyshire, works as a copywriter and editor. She learnt to sew as a child and made her own stuffed toys. She is passionate about sustainability and believes that comfort is the key. And on to Comfort. So Comfort trained as an architect and now works as a self-employed designer and business manager. She started sewing after giving birth to her first child and wanted to be more creative. Comfort loves batik and designs her own fabrics. Then there's Don, the lovely Don, 84, don't you know? Don was taught to sew by his mum over 70 years ago, learning on a hand crank sewing machine. He's a keen offshore sailor and enjoys simple sewing but unusual garments. Don describes himself as a bit of a perfectionist. Georgie. Georgie is a festival and club DJ who loves to both knit and sew. She's passionate about sustainability and frequently uses tablecloths and quilted blankets in her makes. Janet. Janet lives in Yorkshire and is retired. She loves oil painting as well as sewing. She loves making formal and glamorous dresses for holidays and dancing classes. And then there's Lauren. Lauren is a finance administrator living in Manchester and is also a talented singer. She takes after her mum. She's inspired by the 80s fashions and loves bold designs associated with the 80s decade. Luke. Luke works as a diversity, equality and inclusion director and was taught to sew by their grandmother when they were 8. They have a drag persona called Selma Screams. Marcus. Marcus lives in London and works as a teaching assistant and arts assistant coordinator. He describes his sewing style as jarring and garish and a little kitsch. Marcus enjoys DJing, rollerblading, building Lego and playing video games. Neil. Neil is a woodwork teacher living in Leicester. He started sewing when he couldn't find a vintage style clothes to fit him as he's 6'4". Interestingly, he leads a murder themed bike tour in his spare time. Pasha is studying psychology and innovation at university. She is most proud of a silk ball gown that she made, which I would love to see. Pasha enjoys growing, foraging and fencing. Susie. Susie lives in Liverpool and recently left a job in a corporate marketing to return to hospitality. She loves to use ruffles and big sleeves in her sewing design and regularly hunts for second-hand bed sheets and curtains to use as fabric. So it was really lovely meeting all the newbies, and I have to say I kind of bonded with all of them. I liked all of them. I thought they were all really lovely, and I think it's going to be ultra hard this year saying goodbye to them, because I think they've just all got really lovely kind of things to give to the sewing bee. I love the fact there's a lot of diversity in this group, and it just feels like they've picked a really nice bunch. So I'm really looking forward to this season. So that's very exciting. So let's get started. The pattern challenge, or the technical challenge. So for this challenge, Esme and Patrick gives the contestants a pattern, and then they have to execute that pattern to the best of their abilities. Now, this season, they are linking a lot of their challenges with their challenges in their first season. So it was quite nice. Their very first episode was an A-line skirt. So for this challenge, they've given them an A-line skirt. And yeah, I thought actually an A-line skirt, it was a 7-panelled skirt. It had a button placket. It had lots of buttons. And a waistband, and I thought actually that is quite tricksy because they have to cut it out and make it in that time. They only have 3 hours and 15 minutes. Now, I would struggle doing all of that top stitching because I like to take my time over top stitching, and all that top stitching in 3 hours and 15 minutes. And I have to say that showed in the end results, because not even the person that came first in that challenge, not one of them finished, not completely finished project. And I have to say, I don't know whether I've seen that before, that nobody, not one person had finished. So that was quite interesting. So it was an A-line denim skirt. They could choose any denim that they wanted to from the haberdashery. It had 8 buttons and top stitching, and they were asked to do the top stitching in a contrasting thread, so Esme could do her beady eye looking. So yeah, and they all had a very good stab at it. But as I said, nobody finished. So it was, yeah, it was a tricky task. So for that first challenge, Susie really struggled, bless her. She kind of struggled quite a lot through, I think a lot of it was her nerves. She looked very nervous. She chose a pink denim with a red top stitching, and pretty much on her very first go through the top stitching, she decided that she wasn't close enough. Was trying to unpick it, then decided not to unpick it and just go for it, because I think they were all just really aware of how much time they didn't have. And yeah, and I don't even think she made a buttonhole by cutting a hole in the denim, but she didn't actually make any buttonholes. And I have to say, talking of buttonholes, I found this part of the episode really interesting because I have the same machine that's used in the Sewing Bee. So it's a Janome 5060 QDC machine, and I have the same machine. And I have to say, the buttonhole it's a 3-step buttonhole, and the buttonhole foot is very sensitive. You have to, like, it doesn't like anything being around it. It doesn't like being nudged. It doesn't like having different weights of fabric put through it. If you go through on one, it likes it to do the same. So I do think that actually, you know, doing 8 buttonholes in succession like that under time pressure would have been a challenge for anyone. So I did think that the people that did get buttonholes in, well done you. So yeah, so I will be popping some pictures up, so hopefully you'll be able to see some of the designs. I'm not going to go into too much details of everyone's in the first few episodes because the videos would just be too long. So I'm just going to tell you how everyone did, and then in the made to measure I'll give you a bit more detail. As the kind of as my vlogs go on and as we get further through and we have less contestants, I will give you a little bit more information, and I hope that's okay. You can join me on my Facebook group, and I will pop lots of bits and snippets and stuff up on there if you want any more information. Everything you need is down below. So in 12th place in the pattern challenge was Susie. In 11th was Don. Bless him, he just ran out of time. The poor guy, he's 84. He's not used to rushing, and nor should he have to. And he ran out of time, but he did, you know, he had a really good stab at it. 10th was Neil. Again, I think cracked under pressure. He obviously knew what he was doing with his buttonholes and things, but he managed to rip one. It was, oh, bless him. Bit of a car crash. Number 9 was Georgie. 8 was Elsa. 7 was Comfort. 6 was Marcus. 5th was Luke. 4th was Janet. 3rd was Lauren. And then in 2nd place was Alex, and 1st place was Pasha. Now, Alex and Pasha were the only ones that kind of were nearly there finished. And I think it was just a kind of toss up between kind of which one that they liked the most, the contrasting stitches, and there was a few kind of differences, but they were, yeah. So I think they both did really well to actually have a kind of finished skirt, even though it wasn't actually finished. So yeah, that was really, it was, I have to say, I didn't enjoy it as much as some of the other ones that I've joined before, when, you know, when more people have actually managed to finish. Patrick did tell them off about their time management. So maybe Patrick and Esme thought that 3¼ hours was a perfectly reasonable time to give someone to make a A-line button down skirt. I'd like to see them try it. But, you know, it was a struggle on time. However, if you want to make a A-line skirt and you have, like me, bought the Back to Basics book, which goes with this series, they actually do have the pattern for the skirt that they made, and I'm really hoping that this is going to be something that carries on this series, that the pattern challenges are all going to be in this book. That would be great, because yeah, so it's the denim midi skirt. You can see it here, and you can tell it's the same pattern because you get all of the pattern pieces, and you can see which, you could see them cutting it out, so you can see it's the same pattern. So I am going to do a collaboration. I'm not going to mention too much at the moment because I've not got anything sorted out, and I'm going to try and see if I can make this denim skirt. I don't know whether I'm going to give myself a 3¼ hour time limit. Let's see. I might have to cut it out first and then try and see if I could get it sewn in that time. We'll see. So yeah. So if you do fancy making yourself button down and being just like the bees, then this is the book that goes with the series. Sorry, not a plug, just for information if that's what you'd like to do. So the transformation challenge, again, throwback to season 1, and in there they didn't have the transformation challenge then, but their second challenge was I think that was an alteration challenge, and they had to alter the neckline on a t-shirt. So for this challenge they gave them 3 t-shirts, and they had to just make the t-shirts into, I think the challenge was a completely different garment, because some of them did get marked down if it still looked a bit like a t-shirt. So, you know, a t-shirt dress was still the shape of a t-shirt. So the idea was they really wanted it to transform it into a completely different garment. Now for this, they had an hour and a half which again is not a lot of time, but I guess the garments are already kind of made, and then it is just transforming and reshaping. And I have to say, I think they did really well in this one to change everything so much. So I've written down on my notes, dons his Aston Villa skirt, because he used the colours of Aston Villa, the blue and purple, and he made kind of like a godade skirt, not a goat, a striped shirt with a blue t-shirt and a purple t-shirt, and then he made a cute little bra top with it, which I thought was really nice. And again, I was amazed that he managed to get that done in the time, so that was fantastic. Susie made like a plaited asymmetric one piece, which was really lovely. Luke made peplum skirt. Elsa, do you know what? I would have worn Elsa's. There's not many that I would have worn, but I would have worn it. It was like an oversized patchworky kind of jacket-y type, jersey slouchy. Yeah, just kind of, I would have felt very comfortable in that. Marcus made a hat, which I thought was really cute. It was just a bucket hat. It had no real structure to it. Patrick put it on and he looked, it wasn't the most flattering. But I don't know whether they're allowed to add interfacing when they do the transformation challenge. He definitely, well, it didn't look like he had done, because it was just kind of a floppy cap. But hats off to Marcus, because he definitely transformed it into a totally different garment, and that was the challenge. Neil was made like a fitted dress with a bit of a flared skirt, but again it still had a little bit of a t-shirt look to it for me. Comfort did like a panel cutout, and it was all crisscrossy plaited at the back, which was really beautiful. Pasha made a skirt with a simple flounce. Again, you know, did the job. And then they were marked as follows. So in 12th place was Neil, 11th Lawrence, 10th Don, 9 Pasha, 8 Elsa, 7 was Marcus, 6 was Luke, 5th was Alex, 4th Georgie, 3rd Janet, 2nd Comfort, and 1st was Susie. So she made a bit of a comeback. Susie came from, she was last in the first challenge and 1st in this challenge, and I have to say she was delighted. And I did actually spot, I'll pop a picture up of Susie's slippers. They had eyelashes on. Those of you that have watched my sewing Bee Synopsis before last year, I did have a bit of an obsession of what the sewers were wearing on their feet. And I have noticed that this year Don is the socks and sandals man of the episode, and Susie is eyelash slipper lady. So I haven't seen any bare feet yet. So, you know, let's hope that we find a barefoot sewer, because, you know, they're my people. Made to measure. So the made to measure challenge is all about fitting skills, and they get to meet their model. And for this, they have ages. They have a whole 5 hours. 5 hours to make a dress. Couldn't do it. So the challenge was make a casual day dress. Now I think this is quite important, because although some of the contestants made really lovely dresses, I do think that they didn't necessarily make casual day dresses. There were a few evening-y wear, you know, posher wear dresses that kind of slipped in. But I guess it's their first go on Sewing Bee. You're going to push the boat out, aren't you? You're going to want to show your absolute best. But I think that sometimes on Sewing Bee, what people do, they kind of panic and go, oh, I'm going to show everything I've got all in my last, you know, in the made to measure. But what I actually really appreciated, again, I really appreciated the contestants that made dresses that I would have worn or that I could have seen people wearing. So yeah, that was the challenge. So Elsa, bless her heart, I had a little tear in my eye for Elsa for this one. She went for denim. Now denim was probably not a great choice for a casual dress because she wanted to put lots of gathers in it, and gathering denim is hard, and she struggled and she didn't finish, and I have to say her finishing wasn't great, and you could tell in her little face she looked a bit broken. And yeah, and it was heartbreaking, because I think that if I was a contestant on the Sew Bee, that would be me. I would be the one in tears going, I can do better than this. Because I just know I don't like to rush things. So yeah, I really felt for her. In fact, I can feel the tears coming now, bless her heart. The mummy in me I wanted to rush into the telly screen and give her a hug. And then Lauren, so she made, it was a beautiful like minty green chiffon, which she did princess seams, and she made a princess seam top and like outer dress and lining. So she basically had to make 2 dresses in the time. And again, I think she took on too much. And if I'm totally honest, that was not a casual day dress. I can't see that's something that I would be slipping on to go to Tesco's. It didn't seem like a casual dress to me, but she did a really good job of it, and it was very, very beautiful. Very, very beautiful. A couple of people have asked me on my Facebook group this morning, what are princess seams? So if you don't know what a princess seam is, it is a seam that's used for structure, normally on the bodice, across the bust, and it's a seam, not a dart, but it works like a dart because it gathers up that excess fabric, and it is just a long straight seam that's sewed into the bodice to give you structure and shaping across the bust. I'm sure you can go and Google it and get a much better explanation, but that's my short and sweet explanation of princess seams. So Georgie, she did a zero waist dress, and it was lovely. I love the fact we were seeing so many more people using zero waist patterns and thinking about that kind of sustainability in their sewing. Neil, he had a real slippery fabric, but it was gorgeous. It was 1970s dress and fabric style. Janet bought the garden party last night. It was a very bright green. I think Janet's going to bring the colour this year. Yeah, it was all about the colours for Janet. So let's just take a second to talk about Luke's and Luke's make. They designed their own fabric, which I thought was amazing. They had such creativity, and I was so drawn to them. My son is called Luke, so I think that helped me be very drawn to Luke. And yeah, just kind of, I thought everything about their style was fantastic. Everything about their demeanour I liked. Yeah, Luke is definitely one to watch, in my opinion. And ended up with a absolutely brilliant utility style kind of dress. Hopefully you'll be seeing the pictures as I'm telling you all about this. So Comfort made a kind of she had a bespoke batik fabric that was made for her, and she made a really simple cocoon dress, but I have to say she did a really good job on it. And I think that is sometimes the key to these challenges, particularly the made to measure challenges. Don't go out there too daring, just make sure that you execute it as best you can. You know, that I think that really does help, particularly in the early days of challenges. Susie used a duvet cover, and what a clever girl Susie was, because it was amazing. It was fantastic. It was black and white, so obviously it was a duvet cover that was black on one side, white on the other, and she used that to perfection and made a lovely kind of little tiered day dress. Alex was all about the gingham and made a lovely oversized gingham dress. And I think I recognise the pattern as a Merchant and Mills pattern, but I can't be 100% sure. Pasha made a kind of sheared milkmaid style dress. And she had a few problems with her panel at the back, and I just don't think she put enough shearing elastic in it myself. When I've done shearing panels, I shear all the way along, and she just kind of had quite wide elastic, so I think she maybe just needed to add a little bit more, and then that would have brought it in a little bit more. I'm not an expert on shearing. I also didn't see her iron hers either, and I know that if you iron shearing, it does help bring it in. Marcus made a shirt dress, and Don made a beautiful flared dress. It was fitted at the top at the bodice and flared at the bottom, fitted his model beautifully with lovely godos, but unfortunately just he didn't quite get it finished. Again, I just think, what are you going to do? You know, it's hard to do that in the time, but he decided not to hem it in the end because he just ran out of time. And apart from that, it was a beautiful dress. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Don brings in the future. So that brings me to the end. So obviously someone has to go and someone gets Garment of the Week, and it happens every week, and you know it's going to get harder and harder. So today, unfortunately, the lovely Neil had to go home, and that meant that the rather scary Terry also had to go home. So he was a ventriloquist dummy that Neil had made during lockdown to keep him company while he was doing pub quizzes. Now, I'm going to have to go and find out more about that story. But yeah, so farewell, Neil. Thank you so much. I know it's going to, you know, you obviously are very talented sewer, and I hope you got lots of good things in your future. And then Garment of the Week was Susie. I have to say, I was a little bit surprised that Susie won, considering that she did so badly on the first challenge. But I did really love her dress, and her dress was definitely a bit of a showstopper. So yeah, well done, Susie. And also a little bit of more information about Susie. She's only been sewing for 2.5 years, so well done you. And I think we've got lots of good things to see. So I really hope that you enjoyed sharing a little bit of my Sewing Bee experience. As I said, as they go on, I put a few more pictures up, and I put a little bit more detail in. For the first episode, it's just really getting to know the bees and just talking a little bit about the challenges. If there's anything you want me to add to the videos, please let me know. I hope I didn't spoil anything for you, and I hope you've now watched it and then enjoyed it with me. Don't forget to sparkle. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.